So this is a new segment of the Blockmates podcast. It's going to be me and 563 DeFi. We'll try and do it every week. We're going to be talking through our thought process around the markets, how we approach things. Because sometimes there's aspects of crypto that are extremely confusing and we take for granted what the base level of understanding of those aspects are. So the first one is on our informational diet, what tools we use, what we look out for, what are some of the red flags, just basically how we form an investment thesis. So hope you enjoy it. Please give us a like. Please give us a subscribe. We're trying to grow this thing. We need to be the biggest podcast in the crypto space. We've got 18 months to do it, or I'm leaving and pivoting to AI. So, all right, enjoy the episode. All right, just a quick one before we get started. So this podcast, as you know, informational and entertainment purposes only, certainly shouldn't be considered as financial advice. Please speak to a financial advisor or an expert before you make any investment decisions. Any investment decisions that you do make should be based on your own research and your own understanding of the risks involved. Ourselves, or the guests of the podcast, are certainly not financial experts and do not provide any investment advice. So that said, let's get on with the episode. Please give us a like, subscribe, help us grow, help us bring on some bigger and bigger guests. Yeah, let's get to it. We're back, and look, we've got 563 in. Someone who's been contributing at Blockmates. He's extremely overqualified, so don't let him understand that he's working with a bunch of idiots. But I think these little recordings and podcasts might become a recurring thing. We just wanted to kind of get into the weeds upon some aspects of the industry and how we kind of look at things, how we approach our own investment thesis, due diligence, specific topics, and whatever topics we can kind of come up with. But yeah, how's it going, sir? You okay?
Doing well, man. Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, anytime. I've been priming 563 to try and get him as a regular guest so we can get into the weeds of some topics that I'd like to get into. So we'll see how this one goes.
Let's do
it. So yeah, I think we've been creating this Google Doc on how we conduct due diligence. We might be at polar ends of the spectrum on some parts, but I think kind of collectively we're on the right page and on the same page with a lot of stuff. And we were just saying before we jumped on, sometimes you take for granted the stuff that you actually understand, and there's a lot of people that are newcomers to the space or might have came from different markets, and you'll say stuff like, just take a look here, do this is what this means, but then fundamentally you need to actually know where to find this information, how to kind of store it correctly, how to even think about these things. So we're going to go through this checklist. We will probably save it on a Google Doc or something, and then just add kind of viewership view and leave it in the links below if people want to use it as some kind of framework. But I think the first bit that we have on is top of funnel. So yeah, like 560, where do you start? And I can get into mine after you've kind of took us through your initial kind of top of funnel. But like, where is it? Twitter, Discord, Telegram? Is there anything higher than that?
No, I think that's basically it. I try to stay open to any and all sources of information, but it is like a fire hose of information at sometimes, man. It's like so many projects and so many chills out there, and I try to just keep an ongoing doc of what I'm interested in, and usually that comes from Twitter, just because there's so much info on there. So I'll see somebody's list about projects they're excited about, and I'll be like, oh, that one sounds neat. I'll bookmark that, and then I actually try to go back to my bookmarks. And if I go back and I have this running Notion page that just has tab after tab of project, and it'll be like my quick notes and all the projects, so I can go back and reference that, just because if I just try to keep it all in my head, there's just no way to keep track of everything that's going on in the space. There's just so much. And besides that, yeah, I got some Telegram groups. Try to be open to what my friends are looking at and try to get their ideas, because that's usually the best source of checking my own work, and at least in the beginning on top of the funnel. How about you?
Yeah, so the Twitter one's funny for me because, and apologies if anyone's heard me say this before, particularly with Nick Drake on. There's some aspects of where I think, right, if I've seen it on Twitter, it's too late. And then there's other times where I'm like, no, I'm like this. It's really hard to gauge at what point in this product life cycle or at what point. Well, this is exactly what I've kind of this is exactly what I've came to figure out over the years. But I think Twitter, the way it's obviously designed, like the algorithm is absolutely incredible. Like sometimes you'll see the algorithm play its part, and someone will be calling someone out, and then the tweet below will be like completely contradictory, but even though it's still on the same point, it'll just make me laugh. But if you think about it from a research perspective, if something really, really is trending, is it trending because it's early? Is it trending because it's about to go to market and they're running some marketing campaign? Is it trending because, I don't know, they might have some PR strategy running in the background? Is it trending because it's literally the Pico top and everyone's getting a bit euphoric? So it's, who is talking about it, why they're talking about it, and all this kind of comes into it. And I think it still is the most valuable platform and resource there is, even if it's just to, as you say, kind of give you a nudge or a nod in the right direction, or just to kind of get it on your radar. And then I'm like you, I said, I try to kind of keep my bookmarks up to date, and then I just end up bookmarking a lot of stupid memes that I want to try and pinch.
That's half the reason I'm on Twitter. Just get all the memes. No, but yeah, I think that's a good point. Like,
sorry, go on.
who is actually talking about this project, and why are they talking about it? Like, there's a lot of accounts out there that, I mean, it's not an issue. I mean, they're doing it for money. So you just have to be aware of why an account is tweeting about it. Is it because they want to help their audience out, like with some information that they have and they think it's valuable, or is it more just they're trying to shill something? And I think having that radar is extremely valuable, just because if you see something trending, I mean, it could just be, like you said, this big marketing push, and that's all too common. Like, why is this project all of a sudden on every big KOL's radar right now? It's like, oh, it's probably a coordinated marketing push. And, I mean, doesn't necessarily mean that project's bad. It's just something to be aware of. Yeah,
exactly. And what I brought this up, and we probably might get into this when we get into the kind of what tools we use section, but there seems to always be a coordinated marketing attempt around large unlocks. And I know we're going to get into token unlocks, investing, and things like that a little bit later, but for me and for anyone who's coming in, like, just always refer back to, if you can get it straight from a block explorer, or you can get it straight from token unlocks, or you can get it straight from project documents. Are a bit funky with regards to unlocks because sometimes they're as vague as possible around it. But if you do see a coordinated effort, initially my first kind of port of call would be to go and check if there is a big unlock coming, because they're trying to mitigate any increase in supply or any downward pressure that they might come from vesting. So, but yeah, Twitter, Discord's great. Oh yeah, Optimism. Well, I just feel like they're going to have endless catalysts going into these large unlocks, aren't they? So,
oh, for sure. That's good.
What about Discord and Telegram? Are there any kind of standout groups, or any even channels, or even feed the likes of your listing bots or volume increase? I know there's a lot of noise to.
There's a lot of noise. But yeah, I usually just use Telegram for like chat groups. I mean, Taiki has his Humble Farmer Army in there, and then Lambros has his Medium Rare. So there's a couple like deep in the weeds DeFi groups that I like, but really I use Telegram for mostly just like group chats with some like-minded friends. I don't know. Do you use that usually for alpha too?
So there's a few channels in Telegram that I like, but more just like from a curiosity standpoint. And I've actually thought we probably should release a little bit of information from one of them in particular. So a few that stand out for me, which I really love, even if it's not too much immediate information, but you could see it becoming useful. So obviously your listing bots, obviously your volume uptake bots, whale wallet trackers. We've got one in Discord actually. If anyone's in the Blockmates Discord, they can see that we've labeled a load of wallets that might turn into a product in the near future. Bit of cool information there. But there's two that I really, really like watching, even if it's just from a kind of being extremely nosy. One is the OTC trades. So there was a lot of Parachain. There's a lot. Yeah, it's just Michael offloading all these. So the OTC channel, you'll be able to find it in I'll leave a link below. But that's just effectively want to buy, want to sell in big tranches, close a couple of 100,000 up to a couple of million. Been a lot of ZK sync selling going on OTC. Quite a bit of eigenlayer. People wanting to
Selling
take some
wallets or what?
secondary. I just think vested tokens and claims on vesting, and there was a big one on Berachain the other day, and it actually gives you the valuation at which they're selling OTC at as well, and that was down at 900 million.
Wow.
So like things like this can give you a bit of an inkling of what's happening in private markets. And another private market one I really like is, I think off the top of my head, it's called Crypto Fundraising, but I will again leave the link in the description. And this is just telling you what seed, Series A projects are getting funded and who by, and what the kind of premise is. So the way I like to use this, and this is one of the ideas of what we should probably write a report on, is you can kind of see what areas of the industry are getting funded at seed level.
Yeah,
and usually you see baskets of specific types. So a couple of months back, a lot of it was wallets. There's a lot of wallets getting funded, a lot of account abstraction stuff. And you can kind of predict where the industry is going to move by how much stuff's going to come online within a certain kind of area of the industry. So I really like being able to use that as a forecaster. But yeah, those are the kind of Telegram groups that I really like to keep an eye on. And obviously, there's some alpha groups and stuff like that as well. But they're two interesting ones that I'll leave in the description below.
That's cool, man. Yeah, I never even thought of that. It's good stuff.
Yeah. So I can tell already you're a million times more organized than me. So Notion, you say? Like, yeah. I've heard Notion is just good on hard mode.
Yeah. So I would consider just having like a Google Doc for every page, but that would get extremely overwhelming. So basically that's what Notion does. So you write a page and it's pretty easy to store in like a database. So it's just alphabetized and it's a big table, and you can click on one of the tables or one of the lines of the table and just brings up a sheet that you have all your notes on. So that's what I do. And I'll just label something like I'm interested in this, not interested in this, whatever. So you can just get it over with. Because I try to do like, if I'm going to do a dive on something, I'll do like a 10-minute dive and be like, okay, does this pass the sniff test? Do I want to do some more research? Or no, this is just another fork. I don't care. Just, yeah. So that's basically what I do. Like, because if I try to keep everything in my head, there's just way too much going on. I don't know. Yeah. What do you do?
Do you use the AI functions in Notion? I was amazed that you can just create like spreadsheets just by telling it what you want.
Yeah, I've only done that for like sometimes like proofreading. If I was doing like a draft in there, I've only done it for that. Be like, all right, make this jumble of words make sense. But beyond that, I haven't found AI to be that useful yet. I don't know, at least not what I'm been doing.
Yeah, 100%. So the next point that we've got noted down is, what are we both on the hunt for? What are we actually looking for? And how do you categorize them into maybe short-term flavor of the month, medium-term, you could see something coming up on the roadmap that might be positive for price action, or even like the long-term stuff. So like currently, what is the kind of outlook for yourself? What's kind of something that would pass the sniff test? Are there any particular kind of baskets of assets or narratives or potential trends that are on the horizon that you're kind of looking at?
Yeah, I know you guys are a little more, you guys are better at the short-term stuff than I am for sure. I try to stick to medium and long-term narratives just because I'll drive myself crazy if I'm going back and forth every week, because my due diligence process takes a little while just because I'm looking at so much stuff. And by the time I finish researching something, the token's already pumped 2x. Like, all right, am I still interested in this, or is this just a short-term narrative that's going to pass in a couple weeks? So I try to stick to the medium to long-term stuff, something that has like a sustainable tokenomics model, something that fits the industry, something that's not just a fork. I mean, we're going to get into some red flags later, but that's really what my focus has been on, like the medium and long-term stuff. I think a lot of things surrounding liquid staking makes sense that it's going to stick around for a while, just because it's this risk-free rate that's going to persist throughout crypto. And So things surrounding that, I think restaking is really interesting. Been going into those rabbit holes recently. And yeah, obviously some omni-chain stuff is always cool. So that's really what I'm looking at right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the restaking thing is really interesting. I mean, is EigenLayer still capped at the minute?
Yeah, they raised the caps. Was it last week or the week before? And like always, they just get instantly filled. So I think there's a lot of demand for EigenLayer. So I'm trying to think of what else will exist in that ecosystem. And yeah, they're going to be the only play in town, or are they going to be just the biggest play in town? I don't think there's going to be a question on if there's going to be like someone outranking them, but I think they're really early and they built out this moat. So I think it's important to pay attention to what they're doing.
Yeah, that first to market naturally creates its own moat, doesn't it? It's similar to kind of
and they're backed by
an
insane amount of money.
Nailed the.
Oh yeah, they'll be the Lido of restaking for sure.
Yeah, we released a report on Tenet last week, I think it was. They're kind of using liquid staking derivatives for validation on the L1, which I thought was really interesting. So I just love seeing kind of innovation happening, particularly when a new kind of primitive, a new product comes online. But yeah, I think a lot of people are airdrop farming or potentially trying to airdrop farm on EigenLayer.
Oh, for sure. No, I'm sure that's a lot of
people see the word points.
I mean, I am. yeah, I mean, points farming, right? Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I mean, they got to build some hype somehow, and what better way to do it than airdrop farm and just keep teasing that until you can't anymore.
Yeah, this might be like a side tangent question or Jason, but what do you think that's a complete double-edged sword? Because I've got my own opinions on it, and I think Say Network used the whole airdrop thing really, really well, but when you prolong the whole airdrop campaign as your only kind of go-to-market tool, you naturally attract the wrong kind of attention, and that kind of clientele usually shout the loudest. And also, if you attract so many people, and people end up with like $30 in the wallet after doing like 1,000,001 tasks, jumping through hoops, you know, you're only going to get distributed a certain amount of tokens. So I don't know. I'm kind of in two minds about it. Yeah,
I am too. I mean, the product has to have product market fit in order for any kind of airdrop to make sense anyway, in order to like even be qualified to like even do this. So yeah, just airdrops for the sake of airdrops don't make sense if the token's not going to be useful. But it can be a useful tool to drive hype. I mean, obviously we've seen that. It's free money essentially. So yeah, I'm kind of worried about how ZK Sync is doing that, just because it seems like that's the vast majority of volume right now and their metrics are inflated. I think Arbitrum did it well. They waited until they proved product market fit. They had the most TVL of any L2. They had a ton of natural activity. And even after the airdrop, they've had a lot of activity. So I think airdrops can be a useful tool. It's just you get a bad rep just because of how persistent it is throughout the industry, even with products that aren't going to make it anyway.
Yeah, I never understand when people fork, add a few iterations, and then use an airdrop campaign. It makes absolutely no sense.
No, it's just trying to farm money out of people. It's upsetting.
Yeah. But I'm kind of in two minds about it now because, one, I think we'll see it a lot more because of regulatory scrutiny. I think it's probably one of the safer ways, kind of touch wood, for kind of to get distribution of your token, along with like an LBP, which like if we're reading in between the lines of what happened with the Ripple case, people were able to purchase tokens on an exchange, which an LBP could replicate. You know, I think you could argue that, but I think the whole retroactive airdrop thing that Optimism do, where it encourages people to participate, create kind of awareness, create onboarding docs, education. Projects probably get funded retroactively or help to be onboarded. Yeah. See, I think Arbitrum definitely beats Optimism to the punch that way. And now, kind of moving forward, I think Optimism might be in the driving seat, not only because of they've onboarded Binance and Coinbase, like the two
Huge.
biggest titans on the planet, but I think what we're going to get onto in a little bit later as well is effectively Arbitrum handing the keys over to the DAO, which seems to be like a cart with a million horses all pulling in the opposite directions at the minute.
Yeah, I like the idea
that
of
can be an
DAOs.
issue you run into as well.
Yeah, it's just tough to give them a complex task and expect any kind of quick resolution. It's just, yeah, like you said, it's tough when you have a lot of different directives. So we'll see how they do. If anyone could do it, I think Arbitrum has a good shot of doing it, but we'll just see.
Yeah. All right. So the last point on the whole narrative, short term, medium, long term stuff, macro. Like I'm not going to go macro LARP on anything. There's a few kind of things I look at with regards to S&P, NASDAQ, Dixie, but that's probably as far as I go. I don't really like to get bogged down in the weeds to it. I'm not going to fight macro trends. Well, I do. I tell myself I won't, but I sometimes try and catch it off guard and lose a load of money. But how do you think about
it? Yeah, no, I try to outsource my macro knowledge to some actual experts in macro. So I try to just listen to what experts have to say. And yeah, I think it makes sense if the market's risky just to save up some cash for a while and just have that in your back pocket in case things nuke. And yeah, that's basically all I do. Like I try to keep half my macro brain on and half off and do the simple stuff like DCA and whatever. But if there's some macro red flags out there that a lot of people are yelling about, then maybe it makes sense to have some cash. And that's all I do pretty much. I don't try to time anything really.
No, absolutely not. So sources of info is the next tab that we've got. And yeah. I know we kind of, if we're creating a research report or prepping for a podcast or anything, then every single time we want to speak to founders. For me personally, that's probably the single greatest thing about having somewhat of a medium-sized account. You can kind of just drop yourself into a message and kind of demand that the founder, come speak to me. I want to ask you questions. But yeah, what's your go-to sources?
No, I mean obviously the founders are the best way to learn, but yeah, I try to dig through the docs and try to understand what they're going through, even if you can't talk to the founders. I think that's a good proxy. And yeah, try to find out where the team hangs out. Usually that's Discord, or if that's in Telegram, try to ask questions if you have questions. I mean, if the team's not responsive, I mean, there's your answer. Just go out there, ask your questions. No question's a dumb question. And if someone like scoffs at you for asking a dumb question, then it's probably not the right community for you.
Yeah. There's like I think moderators of Discord and Telegram channels are the saints of talk, because they probably get asked the same question a million times a day, and the ones who can just be like water off a duck's back and just be really calm and collected and give you a great answer, is like those guys need a medal.
No, those guys have the greatest patience ever, because if you hang out in those Discords, you'll see the same question like 10 times a day, and I can't imagine how annoying that would be. So yeah, kudos to those guys. I think there's some AI bots out there that'll just answer for you. I think Tapioca's playing around with that. Like someone asks a question and the bot will just answer it for you. Pretty cool.
Yeah, God knows they need it, because Matt, I don't think Matt has ever slept since.
No, he doesn't sleep.
The turn of the oh God.
I'll ask like a question there. He'll send me a paragraph like 2 hours later. Like, oh, thanks. You didn't have to do this. That's great.
He absolutely loves it though. That's the thing. Like, God, gotta love them. So yeah, what have you found any? Have you found any things in documentation or Git books or anything like that you've thought maybe that's not actually correct, and then you spoke to the founders and they, it's not as if they've made out, or they've just kind of phrased it in a way in the docs that leads you to believe it's a little bit lighter than
no, that happens a lot, especially in tokenomics, just because teams will have a plan going in, and then something will change, and they don't necessarily update the tokenomics. So it's important to check that. Like it'll say in the docs, like, all right, circulating supply should be X, and if you go on CoinGecko and it's not X, all right, why is it not X? And you can usually go in and ask the teams, like, oh yeah, we did this, we rearranged this, and whatever. And usually it's a reasonable response, but it's good to check on that stuff because you can check on the docs. Like last time they were updated, okay, updated 2 years ago. Maybe it's a good idea to check with the team.
You know what we haven't got in here, which is a really good source that I tend to use? Going to governance forums and checking Snapshot.
Good call.
I think that's such a... So Snapshot have an API where you can effectively just plug it in. I think we're going to plug it into one of the side panels on the new website because there's so much information you can get out of that. Even if if it's just been posted and there's a vote ongoing, if you watch the votes coming in for like for votes or against votes, if that's going to be like a positive outcome and that's going to affect the market, then people should be aware of that. But I don't think people have, one, the aggregated information to go and do that, and two, I think people would potentially want to fill before that information was kind of in the public domain. So I think Snapshot governance forums are always a really, really good source for potential information, which could lead to price appreciation or depreciation, which could be equally as beneficial.
That's a good point. Yeah, like what are people supposed to do? Just sit on every Snapshot page and keep refreshing the tab until something changes? Yeah, that's a great point. I like that a lot. Yeah, because I have like my core holdings and I'll check the snapshots of those every so often. And you can't do that for 100 projects.
No.
So that's a good call. I like that.
Because if it's particularly active, like Curve or Frax
Balancer.
You can't do that. You literally can't do that. You'll be sat there all day, every day. There's 1,000,001 assets that want to get paired with Frax because they help bootstrap their liquidity. Curve, like you can't sneeze without going to governance. Like it's kind of ridiculous. But
like
we need to aggregate that information and get on the new site.
Yeah, that's great. I'm looking forward to that.
So we've got tools now, and these are changing by the day, and I've found a couple of new ones that I really like. But do you want to just pick a few off that we've got on the list, and we can kind of talk through and what aspects of it we like?
Yeah, I mean, we could do the big one first. We can do DeFi Llama first. I mean, I don't even understand how that's still free. It's insane. Just the capabilities of that app is wild. So yeah, usually when I go in and look at a project and it's already active, I'll go and check, all right, how do the metrics look? What are the TVL? Is there some sketchy TVL that is like, if you look at like a compound fork and it's just shoots up and then exponential down only until then, after then. It's important to keep that up. And then they'll have like fees and revenues and volumes and all that. So it's important to keep that in perspective and compare that to its category. And yeah, I use DeFi Llama first. That's usually where I would check first, just because everyone prioritizes getting listing there first.
How it's just incredible, isn't it? What do you think that end game is? Like what do you think they're doing?
Like they don't
Can they really just be a public good forever?
I mean, they could get funding as public goods, can't they? Like through Ethereum or through all these grants programs, maybe. I mean, I don't know what their go-to-market goal is, because even their MetaDex aggregator, that's amazing, and I think that's free too. So I don't know, to be honest. But yeah, use it while it's free.
Yeah, they're better men than me for keeping it free for that long.
Yeah, I don't get it, man, but it's awesome. I use it for like tracking stablecoin flows too, just to get an idea. Like we talked about macro a little bit, and that's kind of one of the indicators I use. Like, are there actually stablecoins going into crypto or out of crypto, and are they going to this chain or that chain? So if there's no liquidity, there's no way your prices are going up. So that's a good one to keep track of too.
Yeah, I like keeping an eye on Binance in and out flows as well. Too. But sometimes they can get skewed, which I've found.
Is that with BUSD or what?
Well, if they have a spring clean and move wallets around, which they often do, particularly with USDT on Tron, sometimes it can be like an inflow of 2 billion. And then that's completely skewed. Yeah, like that just completely skews the data for that month. And it happened recently. But what really scared me was there was the big uptick, and it obviously showed on DeFi Llama there was like 3 billion inflows in Binance last month. But then CZ's retweeting the fact that there's been an additional like 2 billion USDT deposited in Binance. But it was them moving wallets around. Like, one, he should know that, and two, you shouldn't really be retweeting stuff which is a nothing burger when you've got effectively everyone looking at you for waiting for you to make a mistake.
Right.
So I started getting a bit panicky.
It's a little concerning. You would think they'd have someone checking his tweets. Just like Donald Trump behind the tweet. It's just off the cuff. Yeah, it's it's funny especially because everyone wants him to make a mistake. Him or Justin's son, it's like they're just hoping that they screw up and then they can just destroy the industry. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah. What do you think about? See, I always find myself checking revenue and fees and everything now. That's because some protocols are starting to get profitable, which is always good because there's always a meme of nobody's profitable in crypto, which is nice. But do you think that makes it a lot easier to value these projects and their tokens and not enable them to have extremely hyperinflated price appreciation? Or do you think, what do you think about that?
I think there's always going to be some level of hype that's on top of that. So maybe their PE ratio is 25, like in a normal, sane market, but then there's some crazy pumpamentals that happen on top of that. But I think I'm really excited that the industry is going towards that. Some actual real business models that make sense and actually produce a profit. It's something exciting to see in the industry. So I'm excited to see it. I don't think it's just a meme. I think it makes sense that we're moving towards some kind of maturation of the industry. And I'm excited to see like sustainable business models. Yeah. So I don't think it's just a meme.
It is cool to see that it's slowly evolving into that. And it's kind of like, it must have been amazing in the early days of public markets to actually see that happen. And this is just happening in hyperspeed.
Right.
So it's like nothing was profitable. It was like Ethereum miners might have been profitable, and then maybe, I don't know, Curve might have been profitable, and Convex has been profitable since the start. But now you kind of see a lot of perp dexes, a lot of derivatives, a lot of liquid staking. Even though liquid staking isn't terribly profitable, I think they take like, what is it, like 5%?
Yeah, I think Lido's 5%, and then Coinbase makes a lot. I think it's 10 or 15 on Coinbase.
Oh shit.
Yeah, just because they have the captive audience, right?
So yeah, it's nice to see actually.
For sure. It's you have something to fall back on when the markets are like this. And yeah, I mean, hopefully these unsustainable business models just die out, and then you just have the real ones. I don't know. Wishful thinking.
Well, that's a really good point, because GMX was the complete outlier of 2022.
Right.
And I think that's because everyone was starting to realize, shit, these are terribly profitable.
Yeah, it's like gold today. It's like, oh, it just shits money. It's like, okay, maybe it makes sense.
So yeah, that's a really good point. So they actually can have somewhat of a buffer, because people can actually see that there is value being derived, particularly in bad times of the market, and then the rest just tend to bleed out because they're only being sustained by ever increasing token supply and emissions that come out in the market. So
yeah, exactly.
We're evolving. We'll move into that next
slowly
stage.
But surely. It seems like slowly anyway, but no, it's exciting to see.
Yeah, on token unlocks and emissions and investment schedule. Do you use the same as me, token.unlock?
Yeah.
Those guys are
huge.
chads. Yeah. DeFi Llama's got of course they have, but the DeFi have got a page, but sometimes their numbers are a little bit off. But I just like going to token unlock.
I just like how they present it. It's just one big dashboard. It's like, oh, Optimism's about to dump $1 million on your head. Yeah, and then just keep track of the charts through token unlocks is really great because you can just scrub through it and be like, all right, I have to keep an eye out on May of 2024, and hopefully by the time fundamentals have improved, because 10% is getting unlocked on that day. Yeah, it's just important to keep in mind, like, okay, does it make sense to buy right now if another big unlock is coming up?
Yeah, and particularly the beauty of that token dot unlock as well, it breaks down the distribution of the unlock. So say if it was that 10% Optimism unlock,
right?
If 10% was of that 10%, it will actually break down like where the distribution going. Is it going to ecosystem fund? Is it going to early stage backers? Is it going to the team? Is it going to, I don't know, whatever. But that in and of itself, if everyone, let's like say it was a hypothetical situation where there is 10% unlock, everyone's crying, saying, oh, it's going to get dumped on our heads, but it's going to an ecosystem fund.
Right.
Then it's like, well, is it a nothing burger? Or so things like this are just super, super important. And yeah, I think that is huge. Yeah, exactly. And I think that token dot unlocks is the best one to present the information and just kind of break it down step by step. So completely agree. All right. So are you a DEX screener guy or a DEX tools guy? I'm 100% DEX screener.
I usually use DEX screener, yeah, just to keep a watch list, and that'll just cover every token that you want to look at. Because I mean, I use just like TradingView and CoinGecko too, but I feel like you can watch the inflow and outflow of people into the pool in DEX screener, and that's pretty helpful. If you can see like this one wallet that just keeps adding funds, all right, maybe they have some kind of information, or maybe they have some kind of incentive to do that. So I use DEX screener a lot just to look at the charts.
Yeah, that's what I love about it. They've just recently changed it as well to filter through specific wallets. You can see.
Oh yeah, you can see their P&Ls, right?
Yeah. So it's really, really good. I really like DEX screener. The only thing I don't like about it is when I create a watch list and then I go and click over it a couple of months later and think, what the hell was I doing?
Just reminds you, like, why am I looking at this? Oh, it's worth $0 now. It's a good thing I didn't buy.
And the residual receipts of what could have been still at the bottom of your watch list.
Those hurt more. Yeah. But I also like they have the they'll have the warnings on there for the pairs. It'll be like, oh, this pair can be upgraded, or they can pull liquidity at any time. So it's really nice to have those little warnings too, because I would usually use a different tool for that anyway, but it's nice that it's right there.
Yeah, and what I'm going to say as well, if people don't understand this already, if you go on, not a shit on DEX tools, but if you go on DEX tools, or there's a couple of others, and you see assets that are trending, those are 100% paid for. I have been in groups where people are paying for them to be trending. So
I didn't know that. That makes sense.
Yeah, so when you see the latest shitcoin trending above, I don't know, fucking a top 10 coin, the top 10 ERC20 on Ethereum,
Pepe
that's why
too.
it's trending. Yeah, so don't fall into that trap. Or do, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Don't listen to
it's your money.
So Bubblemaps is one I haven't tried, but I really need to sit down and just give it a go for a while. But
yeah, it's really cool because what it'll do, I mean, usually if you go into like Etherscan or something, you can see the top holders, but you don't necessarily know how those holders are related to one another. So what's really cool with Bubblemaps is if there's some kind of shady activity going on, like, okay, there's one whale that owns 10 of these top wallets, it'll show that. It'll show that these wallets communicate a lot. They send funds back and forth a lot. They're probably the same person. So I think it's a really good tool to look at new projects, just understand the landscape. You have to be careful because sometimes if there's some kind of revenue share, and that'll tag a lot of wallets as together, I guess. just because they'll be transacting a lot because they get revenue share. So just keep that in mind. I know for Unibot, there are people worried just because it was showing like 80% of the supply was alt connected, but that was just because it was the main wallet was distributing funds to the top holders, and it wasn't necessarily that they were all connected. It's just the revenue share going on. But really cool tool. And it's all visual.
Yeah,
so for those visual learners out there.
Yeah, I'm gonna give that a go this week. It's one of those things, it's just on your list that you just haven't got around to doing.
Plenty of that.
Yeah. So Dune boards, I absolutely adore Dune boards. I wish I was somewhat capable of actually building some, because there's so much stuff I'd love to just see presented in such a clear format. But there's so many talented people that will, if you can just search on Dune for anything. Like there was immediately on Friend Tech the other day, there was someone who created a portfolio tracker, and I was like, oh, what a blessing.
So cool.
What an absolute Chad. Thank you so much for doing that. And then you just plug your wallet in, you have to sign up and then like obviously run the script, but it's just it's such a good tool. But again, like similar to what we were saying with docs, you're probably gonna have to have some form of checking what's actually going on, because if it's a vested interest and they're only showing data that they want you to see, then because it's all public and people are just creating them off their own back. But overall, like such a useful tool, and any project kind of worth its salt will have a Dune board, or someone from the community will have built one. But yeah, it's super impressive.
Yeah, actually, I think it's a really big opportunity for folks that have a little SQL knowledge to get into Dune, because I think a lot of projects will value that, especially when more people are coming in and actually doing their own due diligence. Having a Dune board that presents all the data cleanly and clearly is hugely beneficial, because it's hard to get a lot of that data all in one place. And if you have this Dune board that you can just point to, it's awesome. And yeah, I use Dune all the time. I am jealous of the people that are good at it, but thank you for what you're working. It's a big help.
Yeah, what's it? Is it primarily in Python?
It's actually in SQL, so it's all database driven. It's actually really interesting. So they'll get all these tables together of databases, and with Dune, you can just query the database and be like, all right, show me all the Ethereum transactions within this specified range doing this, and it'll just present the data. So you can do that in SQL for other types of databases, and then Dune just runs that in the background. So you just run a script or run an SQL query, and it'll populate the data for you. Pretty cool. I tried playing around with it a little bit because I took a SQL class before, but it's just still above my head.
We just need to stick to writing.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it not taking too long to learn. It's just there's so much going on. Or like my plate anyway is just too much going on. If I had a free summer, maybe that'd be a lot of fun to get into. But for you guys out there that are still in college or university or whatever, go for it.
Yeah, if anyone is listening that are studying or just want to earn a couple of extra shekels, I'm pretty sure we'd be able to fund you building some boards, because we could do with rolling out some of the boards of the projects that we're tracking. So just shoot us a message. We'll throw some shekels so you can go and spend it all on beer on the weekend. So I think we touched upon a little bit of Telegram bots. Obviously, that's a new one that's trending a little bit. I've tried out a few of them. Some are really impressive. We've got Nolo in our Discord, which is hilarious. And that's only going to expand. I think that's one that will only grow. I don't think that's a flash in the pan thing. I think it's probably a rudimentary solution to what the big dogs are actually trying to do in the industry with regards to abstracting away any kind of onboarding, removing the complexities of wallets. I think that's one way to solve it. And I also think kind of meeting the apes in their own jungle effectively with Telegram bots and Discord is another way to solve it.
It's really smart.
Yeah, I just can't believe
product to people that are actually going to use it, and removing all those barriers are huge. I'm just getting more and more bullish on account abstraction, and any way you can abstract away all the hurdles that we deal with on a daily basis.
Yeah, 100%. So red flags.
Yes.
I've got a shit ton. But what have you got on your list?
Yeah, I have a lot in here too, but I'll just go through them pretty quick. I think we touched upon a lot of them already, but yeah, if a project has like inactive socials, like I was looking into this product recently and it sounded pretty cool. And I go on their Twitter and they haven't tweeted in 6 months. It's like, okay, like they don't even have a Discord. Like, how are you supposed to ask questions and find out more about the product? That's a big red flag for me. If they have conviction in their project, they're going to have a way or a venue to answer questions and bring that community together. So I think that's what you guys help out a lot, or what we've been helping a lot with these teams coming up, is telling them that they have to have this kind of community, because or else what's going to happen? Like, no, everyone's going to fall off a week after they hear about it. Other red flags, like projects that are, or founders that are very focused on the price of their token instead of the quality of their product, is astounding to me. Like, I was really excited about this one project. I'm not going to dump on them, but and then they launched a token, and every message or every tweet coming after that is like, don't worry, the price of the token is stabilized. Like, what are you doing? Build your project. Like, that's not why we're here. We're not here for, well, I mean, people are here to make money, but in order for the token to have value, then you're going to have to build a project people like. So that's frustrating. Slow to ship. I mean, that's kind of like, it's a tough one because obviously it takes a while to develop things, but if you keep pushing back deadlines, people are going to lose interest. So I think it's even better to not have deadlines and not have dates that you're aiming towards as much as possible, because deadlines are made to be broken in any industry. I don't know where your background is, but in my industry, that's consistent. Yeah, and then missing obvious pivots. Like, if you're in a dying narrative and they don't realize that it's dying, then that's a red flag too. Like, you're not keeping your finger to the wind and understanding where the industry is going. It's time to move on from that project. And yeah, we can skip through the rest of these. I think you're going to talk about most of these, but like obvious forks where they're just forking and not changing anything and just hoping to extract value is just tiresome. It's just everywhere in this industry because it's so easy. I mean, you can make a compound fork, you can make a Uniswap fork and just put it on a new chain, call it a new name, introduce some token narrative that you contrive out of nowhere and pay some shills to shill it for you. And it's tiresome. So you got to have some kind of radar to filter those out. Understand that there's a lot of marketing speak in the industry, and try to understand what the signal is and what the noise is, because there's a lot of noise. And yeah, just why does this product need a token? Like, I was also not going to name names, but why? Like, there's some projects that don't need a token. Like, it's just not necessary to what they're building. They'd be much better off having some equity from some VC somewhere, and that's fine. They don't need a token to dump on the heads of retail. So just keep an eye out for that. Like, if the token doesn't have an obvious use case in their environment, then just avoid it at all cost, in my opinion.
100%. Like, Matcha is one of my favorite products. I use it probably every day.
Yeah.
And they don't have a token. I consistently use it. I have no desire for them to ever have a token.
Oh, remember when DeFi Llama, they were thinking about, like, part of the team wanted to launch a token and the other team was vehemently against it. And yeah, that got voted out pretty quick.
You know what's funny? You know the OTC group I was telling you about?
Yeah.
There was a big tranche of Dune Analytics equity being sold in there.
No way.
Someone had retweeted it saying, when you find out Dune isn't going to have a token.
They don't need it. That's what I mean, though, man. They don't need a token. Like, I'm glad they're doing equity. That's good. Take note.
Yeah, so I've kind of got a lot of yours on there. So the flip side of what you said about projects pursuing an area of the industry which is obviously not going to be the way forward, maybe like, I don't know, proof of work, smart contracts, L1s. But then the flip side of that for me is when there's a project that tries to position themselves and tries to shoehorn themselves into every single narrative that's going. And it's like, you can't be everything to everyone, or you'll end up being nothing to no one.
Yeah.
It's just, it's a bit tiresome sometimes, and people fall for it, which is even more annoying. But
Well, that's why they do it,
you know,
because they know they'll get money out of it.
yeah, exactly.
It's frustrating.
Well, going back to the whole Twitter algorithm, if you're bringing up specific key phrases that your followers and people who you're following are also talking about, then the reach that those kind of tweets and those social interactions get, it's just a way of growth hacking an algorithm, isn't it? So yeah, I know why they do it. I'm watching you. I know what you're up to.
Yeah, I mean, this week you're hashtag real yield, and then next week you're omnichain and LSDs, and yeah.
So yeah, there's a few, particularly the bigger protocols, that have way too much focus on marketing. Particularly if you're an infrastructure product, there's no real reason that you should be marketing to the herd. You should be kind of focusing on getting developers over there and build on your stuff. And I often call Polygon the Red Bull of crypto, because I think they're more of a marketing team than an actual blockchain. I say that with a lot of love for some of the team at Polygon.
Yeah.
But at the same time, sometimes it feels a little bit like that.
No, it's interesting. They're taking that whole
cult-like
approach.
Communities.
Is the whole BD side versus
like
tech. I mean, the tech is good. It's just it's not really focused on DeFi. It's more focused on social and NFTs and that sort of thing. Just harder to monetize, I think.
Yeah, and like VeChain being the main sponsor of the UFC.
Are they really?
The official blockchain of the UFC is the
That's
tagline.
Hilarious. Oh my god. I didn't know they're still alive. I thought VeChain died.
Exactly. So I've got a red and a green flag here. So cult-like communities.
Yes.
And I've caveated it by saying, good if you can get off the train before it crashes.
Is that the Link Marine
so
in you?
Understand what? Yeah, exactly. Don't. That's still scarred from that. Maybe that's one of those token not needed. But I think with CCIP.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, sounds like some. Yeah, I think Link is somewhat included as to pay for transactions in that. I always feel like I'm saying some kind of Chinese Communist Party kind of thing when I say CCIP, and I never know if I'm getting it right.
Oh my god, that's great.
And my two final ones were, I hate the whole obnoxious team, build it and they'll come. It's just not good enough. There's too many shiny objects. And I also, as we mentioned, Arbitrum. I love a lot of the people who are on the Arbitrum DAO and a lot of delegates there, but I hate people not putting shit into action. I hate like just a big circle jerk of like mental gymnastics to try and get something done. Just get it done. Like,
right.
People aren't going to be here forever. Just go and do it.
No, I mean, don't let perfect be the enemy of good enough, right? That's
exactly it.
Yeah.
So, personal red herrings to avoid. Our next tab.
Yeah, I think for me, like every time there's some shiny object and I get FOMO and buy it, it always crashes. So that's kind of what I've learned about myself, and maybe that's like common throughout the industry. But if there's something you don't understand why it's going up and there's no good reason for it to go up, just ignore it and wait for it to die. Or be okay with missing a 10x if you have to, because there's going to be a lot of those that you miss, and you just have to be okay with it. So that's a big one for me.
Yeah, the buying something because it's going up always lends itself extremely well to selling it because it's going back down. If you have no conviction or understanding of what's the reason that people are actually buying something, the conviction in holding it when it takes a time for the worst is, you and others are going to be trying to jump off the ship at the same time. So I completely agree with that one. Yeah,
try to find projects where your invalidation criteria does not have to do with price. And if it doesn't have to do with price, then you're not going to sell because it's going down. You'd sell because other invalidation criteria. Maybe the TVL is going down, maybe the users are going down, but you're not just going to sell because price took a 10% hit. And have a little more conviction in what you're buying is what I've learned.
What about meme coins?
Yeah, I've just learned not to touch them. Yeah, just it's not used, not worth, like it's not used my time. There's going to be hundreds of meme coins, and maybe one will do well, and I'm not going to find that one. I'm just going to accept that I'm not going to find it, and even if it's obvious, I don't care. I'm not going to touch them. Yeah, I don't know. Have you ever made any money off meme coins?
Yeah, but only when people who are in the trenches with that shit tell me to buy it, and I just don't do any due diligence and just buy it.
Wow, you have a lot of faith in those folks.
Yeah. There is a good application just being built from one of our good friends on Chain Wizard called ChainEdge. There's every single time that guy comes on, he just blows our viewership like out the water. He just like 10x's our viewers. I don't know what it is, but they've just released the product. It's kind of like I described it as a degenerate version of Nansen, and it just shows inflows and outflows of tokens, but it also categorizes the wallets a lot better than Nansen does, and keeps on track of traders' P&Ls to kind of give them specific tags when they are buying stuff. So they don't tag smart money if they got in the first block buying Pepe. That's to them, that's insider money. That is not smart money. It's kind of tracking wallets that are performing well over time, assigning a kind of tag to them, and then kind of allowing you to follow what they're doing, and kind of brings them up in this really nice interface. So that's a bit of a plug. We're not getting paid or anything. It's just one of our friends. So I'd go and check it out. I think it's like $49 a month or something. I think it's well worth it. But that's the only way I'm ever making money on meme coins. I'm relying on Eric or Skull or someone to tell me to buy something, or luckily stumbling across something on ChainEdge.
Yeah, you have to find out where your edge is. I mean, if you're in the weeds and in the trenches and in those groups, and you understand the narratives that are going around and what the community is doing next, then yeah, maybe that's your edge. But that's just not mine.
No, same. So for me, my red herrings are more internal. So I've recently learned that I have no decision over what happens externally. I can only just try and master myself, which is a lot harder said than done. So for me, it's like red herrings are recency bias. I might have something done well recently, and I did okay off the back of it, so then I continue to believe that it will continue to go up. Then I've got another bullet point of saying just another X. And me and Mike from the team had this funny thing that used to happen every time, like in the very, very early days of kind of DeFi summer and when BSC shitcoin season happened and things like that. Whenever we got the calculator out to work out how much we were earning per day in a farm, we kind of told each other to just sell everything.
Really?
So it's just like that, just another X%, or that just another 2X, that kind of mentality. It's always just a sell for me now. I've kind of learned that about myself. And then over attachment, never become a community member. And then in brackets, I've got, even though I still do. So yeah, I try to avoid buying into and drinking the Kool-Aid, but there's some projects that I just can't help doing it.
I know.
And end up becoming exit liquidity.
Don't marry an altcoin, right? It's
tough. So yeah, just a couple of to wrap it up. I think we've just got a couple of points on. We've touched upon a couple of these already, but we'll just wrap it up on narratives or any specific projects that we're excited about. And yeah, I think we can tie it up there.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've talked about a bunch of them, but you have some interesting ones here. You want to go through these?
Yeah, for sure. So this is one I'm not 100% on, but I feel like the AMM has got us to a point. Uniswap have effectively, with Uni V3, got it to a stage where it's as close to an on-chain order book, whilst it being automated as physically possible for the end user. With Uniswap X, it looks like they're going to a request for quote RFQ style system, which Hashflow or CowSwap have previously used. But then with Uni V4 as well, it feels like they're trying to outsource to others,
right,
the best solution for the AMM.
Yeah, they're trying to be the place you start off at building. Like they want people to build on top of Uniswap. They don't want people to build against Uniswap, which I think is that's probably the best way to do it. I mean, if you want to start
100%.
building an AMM, just build off of Uniswap and make some cool hooks, make something different.
I wonder if they get standardized, as like that rolls out. Maybe
I think they will.
Someone comes along and this has limit order, you can DCA in with these specific hooks, and then that specific configuration of hooks in that contract just becomes standardized, and that gets its own name. This is a blah 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 MM. I think that's probably where it's going, but I suppose at the end of the day, it all benefits Uniswap because underlying it's
exactly
really, really interesting move. I think we've previously covered it, haven't we? And the idea that they've tried to slap a business license on some product, areas of the product.
There are reasons not to like Uniswap. There are plenty of reasons not to like Uniswap, but there's no denying that they are the king in indexes.
Yeah.
So even if LPs don't make money, it doesn't matter. They're still going to stick around. Thank you for those LPs taking massive impermanent losses for the betterment of the community.
Yeah, and something that we've spoke about previously and touched upon here is just the whole onboarding experience, and whoever's going to crack that is going to do extremely well. Friend Tech was as impressive as the product was. I think the onboarding experience was one of those kind of 0 to 1 moments in crypto where you could obfuscate the app store and onboard basically a mobile application, even if it is a little bit buggy, but getting
a little bit.
Yeah, I hope Racer isn't listening.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, I think that was really, really impressive. I think we're probably going to see the same thing happen with the Uniswap wallet, because people are still landing on the Uniswap wallet and trying to buy the latest shitcoin and then getting prompted with the fact that they haven't got ETH in the wallet to pay for the transaction. Right. And they're like, shit, what's this all about? Same with Coinbase wallet. Gasless transactions could solve that. There's a good on-ramp aggregator, which I found recently, called on-ramper. So that's like whatever fiat currency you're starting in, what destination chain do you want to be on, and what asset do you want on that chain, and they'll find the best on-ramp provider to facilitate that, and they're an aggregator to do that. And then the likes of Privy, which are providing these MPC wallets for mobile first. So I've got the Privy guys coming on next week. I'm not entirely sure that's going to be the most interesting conversation for the average market participant, but I'm really interested in it. And it's my show, so I got to do what I want.
Exactly. No, info is really interesting, man. Like the talks that I've been having with Rainmaker has been really cool. With like you were talking, and the whole idea of a Paymaster account that can sponsor your transaction I think that's going to be gigantic. So I'm really excited about account abstraction, or any kind of abstraction that makes things simpler, and that's a big one.
Mm-hmm. And I suppose this kind of builds off the back of what is happening with Uniswap and just derivatives and perps, and like the new wave of primitives and products such as GamSwap, Infinity Pools, Good Entry, Panoptic, who are all leveraging some of the shortcomings of the AMM or leveraging some of the byproducts of an AMM. So with GammaSwap being able to hedge impairment loss, Infinity Pools use idle liquidity to go long or short on a specific asset, Good Entry, effectively like some hybrid perp option thing. Panoptic using UniV3 as a liquidity pool to effectively enable options on top of UniV3. So all these kind of products building on top of or around the king that is Uniswap, I think is really, really interesting. I think the only thing that concerns me with some of these products is with hooks, you're going to be able to natively perform some of these actions. Yeah. So be interested to see how that plays out. But I'm interested in that.
I think they're just getting ahead of hooks. I mean, they're kind of doing their own hooks before hooks are a thing. And I think it's pretty cool. I mean, that's what DeFi is all about, is taking these building blocks and building something new out of it. So I'm really excited about these new derivatives. I think they're something new, and that's what I like to see. Not just a
100%.
fork.
Yeah, I'm sure these will all be forked.
Oh, I'm sure.
As well.
Every time.
All right. So yeah, I think we could probably go on for another hour, but I think we'll wrap it up there. Is there anything else we might have missed off there? We think we're good.
I think we're pretty good, man. Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of takeaways from this, just for all the tools that people can use. I mean, that's kind of why we started this. Is just people say do your own research all the time, but where do you start? And hopefully we gave you guys some ideas on where you can start doing your due diligence, some links, some tools to use, that sort of thing, how to construct your mental framework around an investment. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. As I say, I've been priming you to get you on as a regular guest. So hopefully, if you did enjoy this, you can tell 563 in the comments that he best come back on next week, and we'll get some more juicy information out of him.
Yeah, the audio content's definitely new for me, so I appreciate all the feedback, and hope you guys go easy on me.
All right, everyone, thanks for listening. We'll leave this. We'll put it on view only and probably just leave it below. We'll try and include some of the links that we've included, but there's a lot of notes on there. So if you enjoy it, then as I said, just do us a favor, do the whole like and subscribe thing. I keep getting prompted by Henry to ask people for that. I'm the world's worst podcast host. So you can do us a favor and do that. That'd be great. And thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.